Apple's walled garden is closing in. That's right. If you haven't heard the news, they're going to be removing the Damus application from the App Store. Now, Damus is essentially a Twitter competitor, but it also enables peer-to-peer payments. What's the real reason why Apple is banning this particular app? As you can imagine, Jack Dorsey is not very pleased with Apple's decision, and let's dive into this article. Jack Dorsey to Tim Cook. Why doesn't Apple Pay support Bitcoin? That's right, Tim. Why doesn't it support Bitcoin? Crickets. Anyways, here we go. Damus, a client app for decentralized social networking app, Nostr. That's not a good way of explaining it. I don't know why they called it that. It's really the social networking app. Damus is a social networking app built on the Nostr protocol. So, not a very good start, is it? Anyways, backed by Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey is set to be removed from the App Store due to Apple's strict payment rules. That's right. So, the Nostr protocol, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it, okay? But the app that was built on top of this protocol called Damus, okay, that is being removed from the App Store. So Apple is not destroying the Nostr protocol. I've seen some weird tweets out there where people think that somehow this affects Nostr. It doesn't. Anyways, let's continue. Apple has a longstanding policy of prohibiting developers from selling additional in-app content unless the transactions are processed through Apple, which takes a 30% cut for the big guy. To circumvent a ban, the Damus team had to modify the app's tipping feature, which operates via Bitcoin's Lightning Network. The team had to remove the tips button from posts and only allow tips on profiles. I'm sorry, I'm laughing about this because this is such bullshit nuance, right? And this is the type of crap that we create as humans, okay? Because none of us are better than our incentives. Apple relies on the walled garden, so they need to sit there and do these mental gymnastics to figure this out, right? How can we do this? But in the end, nothing was good enough. Nothing was good enough because people could just pay each other peer-to-peer, and Apple doesn't get a cut. And that is just bad business. Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey donated around $245,000 in Bitcoin, then at the time, roughly 14, or I think it was 15 Bitcoin at the time, to fund the development of an open source decentralized social network protocol known as Nostr. So that's just a little bit of history for the people who don't know what this is all about. On June 26, 2023, the Damus team expressed their frustration on Twitter, stating that they were facing removal from the App Store despite making it clear that no digital content is unlocked when users are tipped. And that is indeed correct. For the people who have used Nostr and have tipped others or have been tipped, you know that the tipping function does not unlock additional content in any way, shape, or form. You're simply sending somebody a tip. That's all it is. You're sending somebody some Satoshis because you believe that what they did provided value. Maybe it was a funny meme. Maybe it was a really good, Nostr thread, that they put together that helped illustrate a very complex point, and that really helped you out. So for some reason, because of that, it seems that if you want to go and give somebody a tip for the value you believe that they provided you, well, you're not allowed to do that unless Apple gets a 30% cut. The following day, the Damus team tweeted again, sarcastically suggesting they would use Apple Pay when it supports censorship-resistant peer-to-peer payments to anyone in the world. They urge Apple to start with peer-to-peer payments first. And you could see here, Jack is definitely doubling down on this. This is the tweet to Tim Cook. Why doesn't Apple Pay support Bitcoin, Tim Cook? Dorsey tweeted again, expressing his disappointment over Damus's removal from the App Store for enabling global tipping without needing a bank, payment card, or government permission. All right, guys. So what I said at the beginning, what is this really all about? tinfoil hat people could say, well, Apple's a part of the giant the giant military industrial complex machine, and they're trying to stifle Bitcoin. Sure, that could be a play. I think it's much less tinfoil hatty than that. I think it's much more about the walled garden, and it is much more about Apple ensuring that they can take. It's not necessarily that they're going to, but Apple always needs to be able to take when they can. And unfortunately, if Damus is allowed to do what it does in their ecosystem, they are going to find themselves in a situation where they have an app where they cannot extract the value that they believe they're entitled for creating this walled garden ecosystem. Now, the other piece is this. Open systems always beat closed systems. Now, indeed, it's not to say that closed systems can't be successful for a time. Of course they can. Of course they can. But at some point, what happens is that they start to lock out the genuine innovation. And they do this in order to maintain their moat. Okay? But you see, what happens is that as more and more people start to desire these other offerings which are outside of the Apple walled garden, Apple starts to lose its grip and its power. I mean, obviously right now we're not seeing that. Like that's just not the case, right? Apple is still absolutely massive. If you are a person who is using a MacBook and you have an iPhone, you most likely also use iTunes. You most likely also have an iWatch. And you're a part of the giant Apple walled garden ecosystem, which is incredibly difficult to break out of. That doesn't mean there's no hope. That doesn't mean that there's no hope. But it does mean that it is going to be difficult. Now, going back to this point about the open systems, you may not hear too much about it right now, but keep in mind, the corporations have never been able to stop pirated music. They've been able to stifle it a little bit, but the reality is that you can go and download every single video, every single song. You can get them all for free. You don't need to go into any of their walled gardens and pay to play. So it's just, I think that this is kind of like this matter of perception, and I don't think that Apple is going to be successful at this for a very long time. And I just wanted to remind everyone, because I do see a lot of people going out there and saying, oh, that's it, Noster's dead because Apple won't allow. So first of all, you can just create shortcuts on your home screen on your phone, and you'll just pull up a web app. So right there, it's not that big of a deal. You could totally bypass this. Granted, that is not the ideal user experience. I personally do not enjoy doing that, but if an application is that worthwhile to me to use, then yeah, I'm just going to do a shortcut on my home screen. I don't really care. And I don't think that Damus is going to be the last app that comes along and pisses in the Apple walled garden. I think Apple's going to have their work cut out for them. Granted, they have a huge war chest and they've got a massive moat. The question is, how much of it are they going to be willing? How much of it are they going to be willing to risk, and how much are they going to be willing to spend to maintain that moat in perpetuity? We'll see. Guys, that was our clip for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us out. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, I will catch you all tomorrow.